So let me ask you one more question, Stan. You had these senators, Tidings and Benton, who were intent on destroying McCarthy.
They certainly were.
Rather than on investigating and finding out who indeed
Absolutely.
the communists were
Absolutely.
in the State Department. Who won in the short term and who won in the long term?
McCarthy won in the short term. He won, first of all, because the firestorm of protest that he ignited really focused everybody's attention on this problem. They started heading for the exits, the tall grass, as Pat Buchanan phrases it sometimes. And a lot of these suspects that McCarthy was going after were forced out of the State Department. The John Stewart Service, he was finally forced out. And many others like him were forced out, a long list of them. That was the reign of terror that you read about in some of the history books. The people, poor John Service, just because he'd been hanging out with Soviet agents, just because he was handing documents to the communist Philip Jaffe, just because he hung out with other Soviet agents like Lachlan Curry and Harry Dexter White, he was smeared by Joe McCarthy for doing these things. So he was a victim, this poor John Stewart Service. Well, poor John Stewart Service finally was gotten out of the government after Joe McCarthy brought these charges, after having been cleared repeatedly, 5 or 6 times by the State Department itself. They finally got him out in 1951. It took 6 years. Amarage was 1945. It was only after McCarthy that they got him out. And he got a lot of other people out like that. In addition, in the November 1950 election, Millard Tidings of Maryland was defeated by a man named John Marshall Butler, who was out of the Senate. In 1952, William Benton was defeated in the Eisenhower landslide, so both Tidings and Benton were out of the Senate within 2 years of McCarthy's charges. But they continued fighting. Behind the scenes, they never stopped. And they were involved very much with this group called the National Committee for an Effective Congress that orchestrated, over the years, uproar against McCarthy on the J.B. Matthews issue, completely fake, phony uproar, but then also the censure of McCarthy. Matthews was 53, the censure was 54. Tidings and Benton were all involved with that committee, helping to bring down McCarthy in 54.
So Joe McCarthy paid a steep price for having this positive impact on what was happening then.
He paid a terrible price. He paid a price, first of all, just in terms of the punishment he took at the time, just an unbelievable pounding day in and day out, portrayed as a monster, an evil man, a liar, bully. He paid a price in terms of his health. He was only 48 when he died. 48 years old. Even then was a pretty young age to die. Some speculation as to why. Some a drunkard. Others denied it. But it's pretty clear the pressure of this constant battle. He was always being investigated. He was investigated almost non-stop from the beginning until the end. I mean, never any surcease from this constant battle where they're bringing charges against him while he's trying to fight against the subversion problem. And so I think it just took a tremendous toll of his health. But then, of course, the ultimate price was the price paid in terms of his historical reputation, where he's been portrayed for 50 years as this evil monster. And so, if I look in your dictionary, it says McCarthyism, smearing people with no proof. And that's
it's even seeped into the popular culture.
Oh, absolutely. But conservatives, I say this in my book, I've heard conservatives say, oh, that's just McCarthyism of the left. I've heard that many times.
That would be expunged from the conservative lexicon.
They certainly should. And in fact, one of my key audiences, and I don't expect this book to reach the left liberals very well. Maybe it will, but I doubt it. But I hope conservatives will read it. Conservatives need to know what happened and what Joe McCarthy did or didn't do. And he wasn't perfect. He made his mistakes. As opposed to just letting the liberals write the history of this struggle and then internalizing that in our own rhetoric and discourse. And it's a very bad mistake.